What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. As always, I'm your host, Cam Williamson, and today we're going to talk about, I have it broken down into three very simple things. Practicing the art of patience, which is very, very important. How my life was changed in this past week, not only by the changing of the year and a lot of big things going on in my family, which we'll talk about at the end, but by my reading of Dr. Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Becoming Yourself. Guys, this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Becoming Yourself, doesn't tell you his plan to how he's gonna teach you how to... No. It's simple science and how your body works and how to drastically change your life. It changed mine. I bought the book at about 8 o'clock in the morning, turned it on audiobook at 8:30 in the morning, and listened to it straight through for 10 and a half hours. And honestly, I've gone back and I've started reading it again, and I've progressed through the book. I feel like I really got the message, and I've been following it along on YouTube, guys. It's gonna be exciting. I'm excited about the journey that I've learned and already started putting into practice because of this book, but I'm excited to talk to you guys about it this week. Absolutely, for sure. So, on top of that, we're talking about cleaning out your mind, right? So, to go back to point number one, we're going to practice the art of patience. First things first, what happens? Especially, we talk a lot about anxiety on this show. What happens with an anxious mind when we're practicing patience? Oh no. Two things are going to collide. It's okay. We're going to talk about it. We're practicing the art of patience, but beating it with productivity. We talk about it today here on the Road to Redemption podcast.
Well, hello there, boys and girls. Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. It's your boy Cam.
Going live. Lights. Cam. Action.
Road to Redemption.
Your road to redemption.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. As I said, we are going to talk first things first about practicing the art of patience. What does that mean? Being patient, letting things take their time, letting things take their course. Why do we need to practice the art of it? Because it is an art. And it is something that does require practice. It requires daily practice. And in my opinion, patience and becoming overwhelmed and becoming overstimulated is the number one thing that causes anxiety in my life. So it's something that as big changes are on the horizon for me and my family, practicing patience is something I've told you guys for the last, almost 2 years that we've had this show, that it's not something I'm very good at. So it's something that in my adult life I understand now it's time to take control of. And I'm ready to tell you how I did that. I did that actually by becoming so overwhelmed that I feel like I could not get a handle on it. I had a lot of big things happen in my life, some good, some not. And some of those things were crises, seeming crises in my family. That arose and that caused me to get a tad overwhelmed. And then the other one was good about some potential opportunities that could happen or could be coming down the line for me and my family. And all those things I allowed to just live rent-free in my head without fail, no matter what. And it was just all I thought about. I was consuming my time with it, and I was even pulling my family in and making them consume their time with it. And one day I was, a ball of mess, mentally, physically, everything. And I'm venting to a loved one, and I go, man, I'm really overwhelmed. And that was the only thing that could come out of my mouth, out of my heart, out of anything, is I am overwhelmed. Wow. So I turned on, as per usual, I turned on YouTube and I go motivation for finding patience or being in the moment. I forget which one. First things first, an impact theory video pops up, which is Tom Bilyeu's podcast, and it had Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I had never heard from Dr. Joe Dispenza before. So I was like, all right, let me listen to this one. It talks about changing your mind in a moment. And I was like, that's what I need right now. In a moment. Changing your mind in a moment. I never thought it would actually lead to me realizing patience, right? So in the book, and I'm not going to spoil the book for you, it uses quantum science and quantum mechanics and stuff to explain pretty much your body. I mean, this is no secret. Your body is, I'm not giving away his book, your body is made of atoms. Atoms are made of 99% energy, 1% mass, which means we are ginormous balls of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred, right? So, when we allow things like the potential of what could be to mix with the crises of our family, and our whole being is that of anxious energy and what didn't happen and what could happen and what would be and what could be, what all this thing, it's a whole lot of not what is right now, which is giving us all these feelings of energy, of depression and anxiety, because all these things are unsettled and there's some good, some not good, and what could be and what isn't, and all these things that I could make up, both positive and negative for my life, all in one moment, is a lot for one organism to process, right? So no wonder we're getting overstimulated. So what do we do about it? First off, we have to practice what we would preach. It's very important. Now this isn't from the book necessarily, this is just common knowledge. Practice what you would do or what you would say to someone if they were approaching you with a similar problem. You know, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. This is happening. This is happening. And you would go, hey, let's take a second, right? Let's take a second, because we can't even focus on Y and Z until we've even assessed what X is. Let's start there, right? And I think that's super important, because sometimes, especially as parents, we get in the habit, and as adults, you don't even have to be a parent. As adults, I think in today's day and age especially, we get so used to going, well, I have to handle this problem. And I've been guilty of encouraging people to do it. There's a time and a place for it for sure, but is asserting, I have to do this because I have to get this done. It's on my list, it's on my checklist, which means it's important for me that day, and it's a part of my top 5 or my daily 5 or whatever crap we're reading in our motivational blog books or whatever checklist thing from our favorite podcast. Guess what, guys? As hard driven as you are, the problem is going to be life is always more powerful, right? So remember that. Be humbled by that and be grateful for that. Because that alone, I've allowed to send me into such a tizzy at points in my life where, oh my God, how right now could this person pull out in front of me? The slowest person in my city, you're here right now. And it's like, you see, it's all me. It's all me getting all upset over something because it feels like that person was placed in my life, and guess what? They were. To show me how small and insignificant I really am in the grand scheme of things. I am no more important than that 80-year-old person driving 20 miles an hour in a 55. Their life and what they've got going on means just as much. They're just not practicing this skill of driving as well as everyone else is. And that seems to be a real trigger for me of sorts. Anywho, the reason Dr. Dispenza's book changed my life, guys, and I want to say this part very seriously, is because I appreciate that as a doctor, he broke it down using science, but using language that the layman can understand, being myself, absolutely. I'm a layman of all of us. I would almost claim to be the king of the laymans, because I aspire to tell the story of, hey, I came from nothing educationally, and I have a GED, and then I'll tell the story of my success, and that's because I want to be the king of the layman's. Trust me. So if I can understand it and I get it with the limited knowledge scholastically that I have, you guys can definitely grasp it, and probably grasp it much faster than I can. I will tell you, when I read the audiobook, I actually did have to speed it up a little bit because the reading, first off, it's a British guy or an Australian guy or whatever accent he's got, and he talks very slowly. So like I had to speed him up. So a 10.5 hour book actually got done in about 9-ish. But still, it was great, guys. Definitely go read it. It changed my life. It did. And just how, so to tell you how, I've talked about quantum energies before, right? And let's pause. Alright, sorry about that. We are pausing real quick to reset everything, reset the camera, and then get back into it. So, quantum energy, right, what we're doing there, quantum energy is what you put out energy-wise. So if you have a high energy, a good one, a positive one, that means that you are undoubtedly creating good for yourself because your energy path is that of good. Now, it sounds more woo-woo than it is because it actually is more science, in fact, because it's just what I said earlier. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. So, if I, being Cam, am putting out good energy, positive energy, high frequency energy, and I am going about my day through space and time. I am occupying space using time, which cannot be started or stopped. So we are just masses of energy moving through space and time on a line. So what I'm putting out is what I'm creating. That's science. There's no woo-woo, nothing to that. That is science. So, in that regard, when I'm in my feelings, right, and I'm in the couch and everything's bothering me and I can't understand how somebody would think this, or I thought this, and I thought people could actually see intentions and not just go off of selfishness or whatever is plaguing your head. All those thoughts have emotional attachments to them. So some of us, myself, have many thoughts in a single moment. This person, I thought they were my friend, turned out they weren't. And it turned out they were just trying to use me or whatever. Whatever my feelings are about a situation. I thought this was going to happen this way, it didn't. Why not? And then I start to play all those possible scenarios in my head. And then it's, well, I haven't been doing this, and, well, I could be doing this better. And all of these things come with so much subconscious energy behind them. Because when I say, just as simply, well, it happened this way, but it didn't. My subconscious reminds my body of all the times that exact same thing happened. So my energy level changes. Which means I'm changing what? What's coming down the line for me in the future. So when I start thinking of all the times that it just never came through and it never, just never happened for me, I'm bringing my energy there. And chemically I'm reminding my body, hey, this is what that time felt like. So what am I doing? I'm making that real now, which is I'm putting it out there into the science, into the real. It's liquid, as we say in business. It's real now. It's cash. I can use it. It's energy. It's real. Which means it's undoubtedly going to create my future for me. That's what I really took from the book. Now, how do we deal with these things? That's a real problem and it's a real question, right? Because in the moment, like everything, it's very hard to do. Because just like I just finished saying, every thought, whether positive or negative, comes with an emotional connection to it. So that's hard for a lot of us. Some of us, we feel emotions very strongly, and when we feel them, we almost, the fight or flight kicks in and feel like that if we don't act, especially those of us that have ever experienced any sort of trauma, either in our upbringing or in our professions or in our personal lives, romantic or not. When you've experienced trauma, typically, and I'm not generalizing or I'm not trying to generalize, of course, it's one thing I'm working on in the new year. I don't want to make generalization things anymore. It's something that we were guilty of a lot in the past. But typically where there is trauma, there is overreaction to emotions, especially those that we haven't learned how to deal with the best, such as sadness, anger, frustration, overstimulation, right? I don't know if overstimulation would be considered an emotion, but I feel like it could be. It lives in its own little category in my life. So, hey, what do you do? What do you do in that moment? And the only thing that I've learned that I can do is I have to apply the practices that got me improvements in other places in my life. So first things first, Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule, I talk about it all the time. It changed my life because I stopped being a victim to when I realized that time is so important in your life. Not only how you spend your time, but how you manage your time. So by giving time back, by hitting snooze, you're not controlling your time anymore. I've learned that. So, when I learned that patience was my problem, right, what can I do? Well, I can control the next 5 seconds of my life. I will resort for the next 5 seconds, and now I've put my own practice into place. That includes either breathing or, and I know how corny it sounds, but it works. I mean, you can believe it or not, but I'm telling you it works. Like, if there's some sort of secret to all this, to overcoming mental health and to making something of your life, guys, it's stuff like this. And it sounds corny because so many people say it, but it's because it's true. People say it because it works. So I'm telling you, it's worked for me, and I'll give you an example here at the end of the show, especially if my camera's still rolling. You have to become familiar in the things that, like I said, got you improvements in the in other areas of your life. Bring it now into your current problem. 5 seconds, what can I do? Breathing technique. Okay, here I am. Now, if nothing else, I feel a little better than I did prior. Okay, that's a start. Now, I can at least look at the fact that, hey, just because I just found out about this problem doesn't mean it's going to crash my entire universe right now like it feels like it may. Let's check the camera. We're good to go. Yeah, that's the problem, is when we hear about things, good or bad, which is why we start to play, when we hear good news, why we start to play out all the negatives, is because we go, oh, that would be uncomfortable. That would cause a major change in my life. Change is uncomfortable because where I am now, I know that I can sustain this because I have. I don't know if I can sustain that. What if I get there and they find out that I'm not all this or that or this or that, and we start to inflict our own self-doubt on a real situation that we actually can do and would do well at, but you're now making it everything that it's not. So again, what do we do? For me, I had to practice productivity. I had to make my energy physical. I made my energy physical by doing the things that I've told you guys for the longest helps, which is making your energy physical. I took it out on my house. There was a lot of problems around my house that could be fixed. I will now use my example of how all this stuff that people will say is all woo-woo energy stuff, and when am I buying my crystals, and yeah, I'm not. I don't go that far. But I do believe things work. So here's the example, right? I had one of the worst days I've had in a really long time. I had some personal stuff go on with my oldest daughter and that side, and it was just a very high stress, high tension day for Dad, right? It was a high energy day. Then I had already been waiting on some stuff. I already had some stuff mulling over in the back of my head. On top of the fact, I had been cooped up in my house for about 10.5 days. I was on dad duty. The daycares and stuff were closed for the holidays. That's my baby. Hey, I don't hire babysitters. That's me. Dad, I got this. So I was up here, right? I don't do well when I am trapped inside the house. So Dad is up at a 10, and I just got overstimulated, and it was a day or two of very negative and not this is what I'm gonna and I'm talking because I just want to get out all the stuff that I can't control, and I hear it coming out my mouth just like the bull crap that it is. I hear and I would have done and not this and that, and when I saw this, and I'm just talking, just talking. So I said, you know what? I talked to my mom. Luckily, she was able to put a few things into perspective for me and help me out with a few things. And just by getting it out, it helped. But then I was like, you know what? I got to make it physical. I tried to clean all day, and that helped a little. It helped time pass, but I really just changed my energy for a moment. I didn't really sustain it as anything new. I said, I got to make a change, and I found the YouTube video, which I talked about earlier, and in the intro, and that led me to the book. I read the book straight through, 9.5 some hours, 10 hours, whatever it was, and it changed my life because I read it. I focused my energy on that, which caused me to knock out all the problems I had in my house, which then, right? So the next day I wake up and I start this new meditation practice that I'm doing. I still have all the negative energy that had been going on prior, but at least I was coming into the day well energized. My house was clean. Things at least felt like it was going to be a better day because I had taken time to be, happy all the night prior, regardless of all the problems. I had shifted my focus on being happy regardless of what else happened, right? So I woke up with that. And then, only had like $19 in the bank account. Just seemed to be the way it worked, and I had to grab a few things for the baby, and I was like, okay, well, we only have this much, and I had to get these things. So I said, here's my plan. This is what I'll do. Go to pick up my wallet, and here it is. I look, and there's cash in my wallet. Now, I'm not going to say how much, but it was a good amount. I was like, okay, wow. Like, you raise your energy, things change. What happens? I go get the stuff, come back, my ex-wife calls. Not something good, but not something negative between us. And because of that conversation, we completely cleared our energy out. Just completely, it was like, hey, whatever. About this was more important. It shifted everyone's energy. It was good. It made it good. And I just started to feel problems, and all the weights of the world started to lift off my shoulders. And it wasn't because I ran out and I started to control all these situations, but it was because I just conceded that when I was at home and in that moment and present with my family. And when I was working, I was present in that moment, and I wasn't worried about anything because there was literally nothing I could do about them. So I wasn't going to allow that to take any stuff away from what I'm trying to do. And when I just started, and it helps, and it's mandatory that I get my meditation practice in, because that's the practice of helping me focus. I am a hyper attention person, so I am someone who does well kind of being all over. With that, I can put out a lot of fires at once, which makes me great in business and management, not so great in the sleeping department. So, because of my meditation practice, I now, when things overwhelm me and I get here, I'm now being able to bring everything back into perspective in the moment. Instead of having to exit the situation, breathe, whatever, I can handle it in the moment and go, you know what, this is just a moment. It's just a moment. And here's where we are in the moment, and this is where we actually are in the moment. Without anything else that was created by my brain or what ifs or anything, this is where we really are. Let's just be here. How's that? Because I had already been here for 45 minutes to an hour earlier this morning before my day even started. I'm familiar with this now. Just like I used to be familiar with anxiety, panic, what the heck, emotional, drastic something. I'm good here because here is where I am. So it's what it is. Right? Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me on the Road to Redemption podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please review. Give us 5 stars at the bottom. Let us know. Let everyone else know you loved it. Share it with all your friends. We are clean now, so you can share it with everybody. And guys, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Cam Williamson Official. Cam Williamson Official on Instagram. Please feel free to leave us any comments, feedback, whatever you got. And guys, send your love, send your high energy to us. We could use it, got some things on the horizon. Hope by the end of this week we can share some good stuff with you. Send all your love and everything to us. I'm getting out of here. Rambling. Love you guys. See ya.